So to understand the Indian, the question that he asked is after Nitzovim Hayom Kulchem, which means he's addressing a level of Eden, of Klal Yisrael, where they're all one, is in contradiction to what the pasuk goes on to say, that you stand before Hashem Lekechem, and then enumerates Rashechem all the way down to the Shev Mibacha, 10 categories. It's not just a contradiction in Metzius. So who is he addressing? But it's a contradiction. There's a problem in Inyan, because Hayoim is a remes to Rosh Hashanah, like the Alter Rebbe says, based on the Targum. It's all based on the Targum's pirush of the word Hayoim by Iyov. That's Yom Hayoim, unqualified as Yom Din Rabbi, the day of the great judgment. So the whole Avodah then is Mitzvah Hayoim b'Shofar. It's, and what's the Shofar? The Shofar is a tzaik of Shuto, the Kel Posho, the simple cry and the simple sound, hide in his chalkos. Whole Avodah Rosh Hashanah is the Etzem on the Shama. It's a very different Kabbalah cell than the Kabbalah cell of daily Kabbalah cell, which is primarily Kabbalah cell with respect to specific and particular mitzvahs. Whereas the Kabbalah cell of Rosh Hashanah is a general Kabbalah cell in simple language. Kabbalah cell of Rosh Hashanah is the Eibishter's Melech. In the Kabbalah period, you have a king or you don't have a king. And the Kabbalah cell during the year is a commitment to his gzeiros, to the mitzvahs, accepting the yoke of his commands. But Rosh Hashanah is accepting the yoke of his very existence as your melech. So it's higher than his chalkus. It's not about specific commandments. Hence, the problem, the greatest stira between Kulchem, Hayom, Kulchem, and the enumeration of detail. Enumeration of detail means different avodas. What's wrong with counting all the Yidden? He covered all the bases. But the point is, you're counting Yidden with different avodah. Rashechem is one avodah, and Chayte is another one that you would chop and Shevim Becha. So you're talking about specific avodas. Avodas pratius. No. Every Rosh Hashanah is an Indian Klali, a general Kabbalah soil. So there's an inherent contradiction. Understand this, you brought from the Zohar. Yeah. The Zohar said that the Zohar here is quoted in two places. One place, it's Behemshech. In Parshas Va'era, it's one place and then a second place, and the sum total is the first. Yeah, that Kashem Holikim, his pasuk appears with respect to Yitzias Mitzrayim. And also, so the Zohar says that finally, Kim being one, this is this is the commandment that precedes all commandments. And in the Mindal, you have to know it, befrat uklal. And then it says, that's the first quote, that Hashem Holikim, yeah, the Hemshech was that Hashem Likim do ba'irach prat. That's in a detailed way. And then later on, he says that what's the commandment to know? That again, Havaya Likim kol achat. That's the kol nasavay. That's the summary. So the shayla is, what does it mean? They're all one. They're absolutely opposites. Havai is rachamim blikvol, infinite. Alikim is tzimtzum and dinim. Helava has the concealment. Teva, nature. They're not just different, they're opposites. How can we say, how could it be that Havai Eluhu Alikim, it's all one? Likewise, Oiris and Kelim, they're opposite. The nature of Oir is Gilui, reflected in the pasuk, Ruach ha'adam hi Oila l'mayla. The spirit of man, referring to the neshama, is in a constant state of ascent. That's why the symbol of the neshama is a flame, whereas the spirit of Behem is drawn towards Mata. The nature of Keli, its whole Metzias is to be Magdal. And the more Hagbola, the better the Keli. Definition of Keli means definition. So if you're looking for definition, and that's the whole identity, the more the definition, the greater. That's the Amshocha Lamata. The whole Tnuah, the direction is Hagbola, is to contain. The direction of Oir, on the contrary, is light. As in its physical nature, light spreads, mispashet. And Keli, by its nature, is Hagbola. On the contrary, the more Hagbola, the more defined, the better the Keli. What makes a better Keli? Stronger, more defined, more secure. A Keli that is loose in its borders is not a good Keli. So the whole inyan of Keli is Yiredes Lamata. What it seeks is, what it expresses is, and what it points to is greater and greater Hagbola. What Ur points to, by its very nature, is his pashtos, is Gilui. Not containment, the opposite of containment. So how do we say it's all one? So Yuvan Zeh. So let's begin now, right? So in the second paragraph of this base. Even the minyan Havai Elikim, understand this by first, Havai Elikim as it is in Atzilus. As opposed to what? Tikkun as opposed to Toyu. I'm assuming. Because that's because what are we looking at? Looking at the interplay between the Eretz and Kelim. Toyu as the Kelim shatter and Elikim the interplay. So here's already a yichud. Let's understand. In the Ksir, Kishemesh, I didn't have a chance to look further. So in the Ksir, except Kishemesh, Elikim. So the Abish, the Havai Elikim is compared in the pasuk to the sun, and the sheath around the sun filters the rays. So they're similar to the sun and the shield, literally. Just like the function, the inyan of the Magin, the nartik, literally the nartik is to cover the shemesh. The Hagen is to shield, protect, literally. That creation should be able to bear it, or the Kabbalah said Hashemesh, and to receive the light without being burnt. Literally, Shem Elikim, Magin Shem Havai Shem Elikim is the shield, the sheath around Shem Havai, as it was Shal Yodei Dafke Efshel Kabbalah Elu Shem Havai. The point is not to eclipse, but to make it receivable by the Makabal. Like the Magin, its function is to filter the rays of the sun, that the rays of the sun should be beneficial, in fact, for creation, not harmful. So there's a yichud there. The yichud, there we're seeing already the purpose of the keli, of the helam, is in order to affect a gilui to the makabel, to the receiver. Well, let's see the beer. Since, as we noted earlier, that the Shemavai and Elikim are opposite, so it sounds nice, but how is it possible that the light of Shemavai should illuminate the Shem Elikim? Let's look at the question. It's one or the other. So if Shemavai dominates and not tempered, is gabrus means dominates. So the chli is giloi b'li gvuli. So what's the result going to be? You're not going to have a yichud. It's one or the other. It's going to be an infinite revelation. Hashem Elikim will be gabrus. Hashem Elikim dominates. So chli is hela v'hestel agamli. It's got to be concealment. So who gets the day? Who holds sway? Shem Havai holds sway. Ligvul. Hashem Elikim, concealment. So it's kind of the same question, because B'li Gvul is not given to be revealed in Gvul. So if Gvul is going to dominate, that's the end of B'li Gvul. And if B'li Gvul is going to dominate, that's the end of Gvul. So how do you have B'li Gvul in Gvul? How is it possible Shem Elikim should illuminate? Through Shem Elikim, Yoyra Shem Havai. So in the case of the sun, to begin with, the sun's rays aren't infinite. So they can be contained and filtered. We're talking here, that's the difference. But Shem Havai is B'li Gvul. So how are the two, how does one play on the other and not compromise it completely? Eclipse it completely. Yad Shal Yodoi. So we're saying that Shem Elikim is like the nartik, the dafka through it, that the ray should reach every place. Dugmas, hamogin shal yodei miskabler hashemesh, just like the shield that effectively doesn't eclipse the sun's rays. The contrary, it causes the sun's rays to be received by the world. So therefore, the fact that it is also true of Havai and Elikim, that's the moshel that's used. Mind you, it's more than a moshel, it's Pashat Nishtalshel. Hashem says Nishtalshel Hashem Havai. So it means that's a true moshel, and therefore, so perforce he must conclude that the true Inyan, at their core, Einon Beisafachim, they are not opposites. Didn't you say they were? Let's continue. They ascend in light, that movement. What are you getting your oisius? That's not the true kavana and pnimius of the oil. In other words, the oil doesn't, this is the Eibishter's oil. The oil is not oil in a that's what I'm looking for. Oil in a detached sense. Oil is oil. Eibush is revealing himself. So the truth of it all is the Eibush's kavana. So even as the Eibush is revealing himself, B'li, that's not his ultimate intent. And that's therefore carried in the oil, which is nothing in the end other than revelation of him. Even though by its external nature, it is mispasha. The whole kavanah where the Eibishter reveals himself is because he wants us to know him. It should be revealed lamata. He doesn't want it in a way that should be great light. He wants it to be. He doesn't want it the way the boyfriend say you feel bit ba'amakablim. He doesn't want to overwhelm the receivers, the recipients. That's not the kavana sa'atzmos that manifests the oil. That's not the intent. He wants that his revelation should be such. That siyashvus means settled, literally, absorbed. It's a relationship. So that's what we started to say. Understand the yichud and olam atikun. This is between the light, the manifestation of Hashem in Tikkun, the manifestation in Toyu. The Toyu in Yonda, what's Toyu? Shemeid by from Blikvol. The attack of the oil, the Kavanah Pinimis is not manifested, in other words. So what's manifested there is just the mandate. God is saying, let there be, let I reveal my infinite. Blikvol. Hence the shattering of the whole notion of Gvul. Shvidas HaKelim means the shattering of the notion, the whole potential of Gvul. Not Shayach. I don't just mean it in theory, because the Shvidas HaKelim, the Tzitzik Dusha fall, the whole, let me tell you something, friends. If you can understand Toyu, because that's the most spatial thing. Kalim shattering, falling, like it's really physical, and the only way you can approach it is literally having these images. if you can understand, it's telling you that it's a toiva. We talk about it. We have spoken about it. To understand toihu, what that means, and divest it from its physical imagery to whatever degree you're able to understand the inyan. That's like a very good foundation to understand the whole business. Because of course you don't mean physical kelim, it's like shards falling, it sparks. What does it mean, a spark? What does it mean? So that's a good testing ground, because it's really the beginning of Ishtalshalos. If you don't understand that we're not really following what happens afterwards. Because the Torah precedes Tikkun is the first encounter of Gvul and Bli Gvul, as it were. I'm saying. We have spoken about it, maybe we'll talk about it more in the mind. So let's just read the ICs here. In other words, the McGill student, is like looking at you with puzzled eyes, vessels breaking, falling. What are you talking about? Is it not God and his manifestations? Like he's completely puzzled with the whole language and imagery. So explain it to him. We're starting to understand ourselves a little bit. Point is, never Shabbamis has to understand. Pnimius, that's actually your B'siyashvus. The whole point is that he wants the Eibishter, that his presence be drawn in a Pnimius in us, and that starts with understanding. Shemei b'ofen b'li gvul. So what was I saying? She's been the tikkun the toyu, and this is between the oid of tikkun and of toyu. She'oid had toyu in yonlo shemei b'ofen b'li gvul. So toyu again, where is that? Yeah. So toyu is b'li gvul, therefore the shattering. Oid had tikkun in yonlo she'oid b'sashvus became. But tikkun is where the pnimis hakavana now starts to emerge. So if that was the pnimis hakavana, the question is to start that way. Maybe to count the chatchilim in megala, the oid, and in kalim. What need tikkun for? What need toyu for? That's in the crux of the matter. That's the kavanah pnimis. So start the matzimus. At any rate, so there a dogma. Oh, getting emotional. Okay, we'll do the emotional quickly. When there is Hashem, on Monday we'll revisit it. Dogma melabas of the dom, a physical king Shemagalis, he called the revealing his glory. There are two ways. Oifna Aleph, Shemagali, Yekor, Tiferes, Golosai. This is a Lashon the Megillah. The preciousness of the beauty of his greatness, of the glory of his greatness, the whole ha'tokef in Yiddish with force, with not contained. And he doesn't reckon with the melech in this first way, the matzav of the receivers. What happens? They're just blown away, they nullify. That's one way. Loifen HaBeis Shemagalis, he called the Fres Debosi, reveals his glory, but in such a way Shemekablim Yuchlo Litvei Sulahasi, that the receiver should be able to grasp and understand it. Let's just read the next few words. That's what we request of the Eibishter, Gali Kveit Malchuscha. In the Tfilos of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, reveal the glory of your sovereignty and what? The Yeda Kopol Kiyata Piyalta, every pole, every effect should know that you brought it into effect. Let's finish the sentence. The pole that you affected, you made, Pa'ula refers to the lower creations. What are we asking? The lowest creation. That every creation should know and feel. Yeda's pnimius, know, not believe in you, but know you, feel you, that you bring it in, that you have brought it into existence. That is what that's the kavanah elamatikun, which begins the elamatikun. That's the second way that the Melech reveals himself. All right, friends, to be continued position tomorrow, Monday.
Can you bring a mushal? Do you have a mushal? Another mushal? How oyer is or tikkun is not the kavanah, mashen kain.
Tikkun is the kavanah.
Sorry. Toyu isn't the kavanah, but tikkun is the kavanah.
A marshal?
Yeah.
But the marshal that he just brought. The king doesn't.
Fine. Yeah. So, which means he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't. What are you trying to say? He doesn't want like a person who goes into a person. So it's exactly opposite to the marshal that we learned in what's it called in the guy. He doesn't want to be satiated by the externalities of the palace. He wants kitten boy nimsa melech. So
that's not.
So it's opposite.
You're right. Somebody's speaking here. Okay, that's a good question, and let's address it. This is not. That's the chelas ava. That's anonos malka. That comes after this avodah. First, this is avodah mitzvah tzeder shtalshalos. Okay, that's a good question. Let's put it put things into perspective. So Blin Neder will deal with it on Monday. Okay.